Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're tuning in. This is Bob Wright. I am back after a week of, I guess a little bit of vacation. Not really vacation, though. No internet again in Houston, but we've luckily got service again just this afternoon here in Morocco. And I am here with Julien Wells, and I think Julien is there somewhere. Julien? Okay, he's there somewhere, although I know he's there because he's hosting the blog talk board. Little tongue twisted. Lots to talk about today. So much is energetically going on. A lot of information, lots of updates to give you. I just left the clubhouse and the QEG workshop, and it is, I guess, about 95% complete. And I don't know whether they're going to continue into the night. I think they got like 2 more hours of work, or they're going to wait until tomorrow. But they will be flipping the switch on the QEG either tonight or tomorrow. So everybody is very, very excited about that. We've got lots of instructional video on the whole assembly process. We're getting it transcribed, so it'll be in writing and in video form. So those who wish to work at translating it into your own language, that would be appreciated. And there's going to be so much information coming out in the next couple weeks. So please stay tuned to Hope Girls Fix the World blog, and also here at the Collective Imagination and 5D Media Network. We will let you know what's going on. Julien, I hear you. Are you there?
I am here.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really, really great. And I know we didn't get really to talk much before the show, but there's lots I have to share.
On the QEG or on other things too? I had
on the.
But we've got 2
well,
hours,
I had. Yeah, we do, and it's a good thing. I had mentioned before that. Our Pleiadian and our galactic brothers had said that if we made a space, that they would come. And yes. I actually met one. One of them.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. I'm not going to disclose his identity, but there was something about him, and I was like, I invited him back to my place, and we had a little talk, and I was like, who are you? What are you here for, really? And he's like, well, I'm really not supposed to say. I was like, what do you mean you're not supposed to say? Because as you know, we've had CIA agents here, we've had Royal Police, all kinds of different agencies, people spying, lurking, and which is fine. Everybody gets a chance to take a look and their own conclusions. He says, well, I'm not supposed to say anything unless I'm recognized. And I was like, I think I know who you are. And he just started to laugh. And to be honest, aside from the most amazing blue eyes and blonde hair, you wouldn't know. Like, if he didn't tell you, you would never know.
Now, are you saying that to the audience?
Well, I see something energetic in the eyes, and very, very, very familiar, and very, I don't know how to describe, but lots of love, lots of peace, a little bit awkward. I mean, in interacting with everyone. Kind of a little distant, but I count that for just not really being familiar. we talked for several hours, and I thanked him for all the assistance, and he said, "No, it's all you. It's all you." He's like, I have the choice to disconnect. He goes, I have the choice to disconnect when I choose, and you don't. And that is incredible. But some of the information was that the new Earth is completely established. We're standing on it. He says it's birthing into physicality now. He says he doesn't know how long it could take because he's not too hip on the whole linear time thing. He said it could take a couple of years. It could take 50 years. He says, but it is done. He confirmed that Earth is no longer in the same solar system. And I did want to ask you, how does that affect, us not being in the solar system or in even the same place of a galaxy that we how does that affect the astrology? I don't know. And I don't know if
You're assuming that we've done some sort of teleportation, right? And there's no actual cause for the teleportation. What there is there's a functional change in everything's vibratory state. Because the perceiver is the one that actually has the experience and actually chooses the experience. And so the whole planet is a new perceiver. So it resonates with a new relative association with all the vibrations around it. Does that make sense? So the planet can't help but teleport if everything is a new resonance. It is literally belonging somewhere else. And, the passage of time promotes a traveling through space and time and distance, as in we graduate and we sort of like go from one energy to the next. So that's a form of progress of our energetic state. However, we did a quantum leap. And so...
Well, what I was told is that the 3D material physical ascension has started. I mean, it's been started, but I'm talking about where you're literally going to start to really notice physical changes in your body, transformation in your body and on the planet. They're both going to transform together. That all of the previous human limits, he says, everything's open. All options are available. Everything is wide open. Human lifespan, if you so choose, can be anywhere from 1 to 5,000 years old. Starting now, immediately, for those who have chosen. And all choices will be honored. So, I mean, we've all been making, whether we're consciously aware or not, we've been making energetic choices at higher levels as to what it is that we plan to do, where we want to go, and all of that. And all those choices will be honored. So for those who choose, there's going to be some major, there is, and because right here, in Austin, oh my goodness, people are having visions. People are physically just having every range of symptom that you can imagine. Lots of guys bursting into tears for no reason that they can explain. We've got several people kind of just looking and staring into space and like, are you okay? I'm okay. I just want to talk. I can't talk right now. Just processing. Just processing things. It almost feels like the air is electrified here. it really feels like you're walking through a field of static electricity. The energy is so intensely high at this moment. You know, like
Yeah.
whew, wow. After the conversation, and I realized, and they did mention that the QEG is very important. That it and also that it does a lot more than just produce power. That was also confirmed. And they are so excited. So, oh my goodness. He literally danced around, spun in circles, smiling with his hands in the air at the level of consciousness that he observed here. He said beyond their wildest expectations, and most of you are very tuned in, and you're receiving inner guidance, which is right spot on. People are really, and he said critical. I asked him about critical mass, and he says, yeah, critical mass achieved and far exceeded. He said there's no way that anything would, with the amount of people that are awake right now, there's no way the earth would not be sealed for ascension. But he also did mention that there will be those who choose not to, and those choices also will be honored. All the Sith Lords, Archons, whatever you want to call them, are gone. They're not even there. And whatever remaining ships were around have left. We actually saw them leave. At least a few members in the clubhouse here at the community about a week ago were sitting in the driveway and literally saw the ships leave. There was about 50 of them. And we waved and we saw them go. We didn't know what they were until he told me that's what they were. They were leaving. And that the earth is literally at the gate of, I guess you could say at the gate of heaven, right at the, where the veil is going to be dissolved, and all energetic programs and rebalancing according to everyone's choices is underway now. So there's a lot of it's like if you ever have your computer where it goes through its automatic update and it says, please do not unplug the computer until the update is finished. That's where we're at. We are right about to hit the reboot. And when it happens, literally, he said, you will be standing on a new earth, and when you look up to the sky, there will be new heavens. I don't know how that does that
compute?
Yes, does that compute with your information?
I talked about this even last year, actually. That we've only been given sort of like, let's look at it this way. The planet can actually exist in two places at once. Okay? You can actually exist in two places at once. This was confirmed with me when I'm on the ship. I'm actually partially there, and I'm partially here. Now, I'm not so much there that I can, touch things, but I can sort of, feel like I remember what it's like touching them. It's almost like a strange extreme memory type thing. So you can be in two places at once, and what's been happening is that more and more our awareness is being sucked to a new location, sort of like a wormhole effect. So, reducing density and experiences of one location for the other location. It's like a slow teleportation. While you have 2 feet, you have 1 foot on both sides. That's what part of what we've been here for, is to help the human consciousness do that. Because the human consciousness is what's doing it. The planet is actually secondary, backing us up. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. That makes perfect sense.
So we're sort of like bilocating right now. And I know it sounds absolutely absurd to the laws of physics, but you have to understand, this is all just a hologram. Okay? If you can present this idea in a video game, then you can present it in real life. Okay?
Yeah.
So, as you know, weird stuff can happen in movies and in video games. That means it can happen to you. So, your imagination is your limit. So, whatever you can imagine is what is able to happen. And that's the limits of your world, is your imagination. It's actually your actual limit. If you can't imagine it, then it's not in your world. But if someone else can talk about it, then it's getting close to you imagining it. You see?
Right. Well, we've been imagineering quite well, I think.
I think so too. But I wanted to ask a couple of questions about your friend, or our friend. Is he remaining with you so that you can continue to ask him questions or talk to him in the future, or is he in and out?
No, he's here. And
so can we give him a pseudo name so we can refer to him or ask him questions?
Yeah, we'll call him George.
Call him George. He's George the Pleiadian, or George our friend.
And he's not the only one.
That's with you
guys? He said there are others. Yeah. And I haven't recognized in any of the others. Well, and I didn't tell you.
You didn't.
I didn't tell you. And this is, I feel. Yeah, this is it because a lot of people who might hear this show, and if you haven't heard previous shows, I could be like, called really, really crazy here, but I met Santa Claus. And his wife.
Oh my God.
And he's real. And it's funny because I should have recognized. I wasn't the one who actually recognized him. Whitney was the one who recognized him, and she told me. And as soon as she told me, I started laughing because his wife is always knitting these wool sweaters and everything, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I was just like, oh my God. And so, like, I was like, I whispered to him, I was like, I know who you are, right? I was like, you're Santa Claus. He's like, no, but he goes, I don't know how to tell everybody else. So I was like, I think pretty much we kind of. But this conversation that we're having right now.
I told you on the air that I knew.
I know you did, Julien. I know you did, and I believed you. I did not doubt you.
I am the first person to believe you. I am the first person to believe you.
I know you told me, and I knew, and I also believed you, and I also know that these beings are real. I mean, you can't imagine something that doesn't become real somewhere, or isn't real somewhere, and
she wants to have had so much of an effect on our lives.
Yeah. And just this beautiful, beautiful being. beautiful being. I have so much love for the people and the beings that are here. It is every day is it's just amazing. It's incredible. I mean, just sitting around the clubhouse, you can casually walk through the courtyard and casually walk through through the gardens and just listen to random conversations that are going on between everybody, between all of these different people, and the things that are being discussed, and the depth of information that is an experience that is being shared with each other it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. If anybody has ever seen the movie Waking Life, where the guy's like going through this journey, he's like in this perpetual dream state, and he's going through, his daily routine, talking with all these people who are giving him all these incredible insights about life. Well, that's kind of what it's like here. And there's been
I gotta watch it now.
one of the so we got in touch with, actually one of the natives actually came to the community center, one of the locals here, and we started talking with him, and we were getting the impression, he was like, what are the locals saying about us? And what their impression is that we are a non-governmental agency who's come to Ousham to see what they can do about the water situation.
Oh, really?
And yeah, that's their perception, and which really isn't necessarily wrong. We're not an agency. We're not governmental, and we are planning on helping with the water situation. But as we explained everything that we're doing, we told them about the QEG, about the self-sustaining, intentional community, about permaculture, and all the things that we want to. Well, he went and called a meeting with the locals, because we've actually had a few thefts, and we had people, crawling in on the roof, and he talked with all the locals and told them, he says, look, these people are here to help us. It would behoove you to go out of your way to protect them. And so the locals now are really, really helping in any way that they can. They want to assist. They want to help. It's just so much. It's so beautiful what's happening here, Julien. We've got 23 countries working together, collaborating in complete open source transparency, getting along, and it is the level of consciousness and integrity I have never experienced in working with any group in my entire life. I have never worked with or been in a group with such impeccable integrity, and they just want to see a better world. There's no control. There is no, and there's challenges that happen in building, things weren't quite aligned, and the vibration never faltered. No matter how effed up the situation, the vibration never falters. It's like, oh, okay, we'll deal with it, and it just keeps. It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful, and it's.
You're saying it's a little
I'm
different
glad.
than
Oh yeah, it's a little different, and it's it's really refreshing because everybody does what they do. I mean, we've got people, and the caliber of people we've got: astrophysicists. We have people from British Aeronautics and Space Agency. I mean, some of the people that are here, and their level of expertise that they're just offering willingly. It's incredible. They're really. It's not a. I mean, if it was just
Well, we're losing a little bit of
high level people here, huh?
We lost you for a couple of words. But I think
I'm just saying,
yeah, the people that you're amazed at how it's come together with so many people with many different skills and how freely they're offering everything that they can.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, there's been lots of tears, lots of hugs. Me and George hugged for 25 minutes. 25 minutes. I've never had a 25-minute hug before, but I did now. And
yeah.
it's just.
It's very, very huggy.
Oh goodness.
I almost
and very good huggers. Say that again?
I almost want to say that they probably invented teddy bears.
Probably, yeah. Because, I mean, warm and cuddly is an understatement to describe.
Yeah.
To describe George. Yeah, he's he's also a genius. Unprecedented when it comes to his knowledge of physics, science, and just the way things work. Incredible. So how's your week been?
This week, I want to say it's actually been lighter than most weeks. Not for lack of good conversation, but it's been less intense than last weekend. So there's been a lot of sort of like subtle progress and very, very good conversations. Lots of revelation or epiphany for me and Medusa and Crystal. And sharing those around. I don't know if you heard. Well, you probably haven't. A couple things that have been going around Facebook about teleportation and how that.
No.
Well, I've gotten impetus to start studying it again and studying instant manifestation, sort of feed in through Michael. And I was hoping to do a little bit more before today's show, but I know it's a big subject, so maybe I'll have more to share next week. But for the moment, I can share a little bit.
Yes.
The basic premise is not much different than my penny experiment. You're literally moving to a reality, to a timeline where you are already there. But the difference is that you're going there without having to have an explanation of how you got there. That's the difference between teleportation and actually journeying somewhere. Right? Is you don't have to have an explanation other than your intention to simply arrange the reality so that it becomes that way. It's almost like you have a painting in front of you that's like your room or whatever, and you take a bucket of water and you splash the painting, you wash it out, and you repaint it. It's almost like that. And
well, yeah, well that would make sense
really
because
you're really just painting a penny in. That's what I did. I painted a second penny into my hand. Really, you can leave it that simple. You just need to know that is allowed. It wasn't allowed so much in the past. Our environment and our beliefs did not make it so easy. But now it is an open door where we're going.
Yes, that's what he said. He goes, everything's possible now. You know, if we want to have a world where we bring magic back, you know, we can do it. If you want to live long, to begin youthing yourself, you can. I mean, you were able to do that a while ago, a long time ago. But it's going to become easier and easier and easier. And what he said was, what you're going to notice is not like you're not going to have any more challenges or you're not going to have any more problems in your life, but there's not going to be so much resistance to the solutions.
And you're going to have, what did they tell? They told me that everything around you is going to support you for being dynamic.
Yes.
Dynamic. Like your entire surroundings will be like, almost like a form of technology that makes your life easier to live the way you want. Sort of. But it won't be like, you know, machinery. It'll literally just be the understanding of people around you.
Ah, the future looks bright. It really does. It really does. And I was, and I don't know if you got a chance to see it there. I saw it posted on Facebook, and somebody was posting information about, what's it called? I think it was called The Lies That NASA Tells. And it was it also mentioned that Earth is no longer in the same orbit, and it's talked a lot about the different covens, satanic covens that were ruling the planet, and how they used the technology called the Ark. And there was 7 different covens, and they used the Ark of the Coven, which is in Antarctica. I was really fascinated, and I didn't get really a chance to research a lot of it. You know, I saw a few minutes of it, and I was wondering if you had any chance to see it, if you have heard about it, and what your comment is on it, because it was according to what they were saying, and I'm going to have to confirm this with George because I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it. That the branch of man is the only creation that is whose creator God is Source itself. That it is modeled after, that we literally contained information from every known race in every known realm within our DNA. And as being that, you know, that special race, that we were literally trapped in what they call the abyss, and that the sun really is not, it's what we see as the sun is not the sun, that it's just a shield hiding what they call the black sun, in which they use to transport from the netherworld and back into the abyss. Have you heard or listened or have any insight onto that?
I don't. So if you forward me that, I can intuit and ask my questions as I go through that.
It was on YouTube, and it was called, see if I can find the link, and I'll put it in the chat room. I don't know if anybody in the chat has seen or heard of that video. Why is that NASA's told, or I forget what the whole title is. Let me see if I can look it up. But it was really interesting. I have to get some time when I have some really good solid service that I could stream a 1-hour video on YouTube. Because it's I can listen to 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's just it gets so frustrating. In order to save my computer from being thrown across the room, I usually just give up.
Yeah, you're getting choppy right now. I wanted to share a little bit. Yeah, you're really choppy for the moment. So I can't hear what you're saying. But I wanted to share real briefly about just that sun element of hiding this abyss, and the element of humans are basically all the DNA from all the environment. That is true, but in context. Our planet is made up of many different genetic forms of makeup. As in, we have lots of countries, we have lots of different species of humans, not just being dark skin and different color hairs and eyes, but we have basically DNA that is considered recessive traits, and the recessive traits still are active. They're just not presented on the physical side of the body, so you don't necessarily see recessive traits, but they're actually still a form of activeness. They're active in one way or another. They're just not active in the visual spectrum. And so it's as if humans are the greatest DNA experiments, like America being a melting pot, as they've termed, in the history books. America being a melting pot of all sorts of things. Well, that's true as well. But the whole planet does have, and this is what I'm getting, does have just about the majority of the DNA that's out there. Some of the DNA that is not, that is so recessive, is that the types of DNA, and just letting everyone know that Bob has dropped off, so I'll wait till he gets back on before connecting him. Some of the DNA that is recessive are the ones that give us really strange appearances, like looking reptilian or looking like we have bird feathers and things like that. But if you look at some of the most recent studies that have come out, it's been discovered that that in the DNA of even things like frogs, they've found that human DNA is in it, and that we're actually not so different from even like a frog. That a frog can become a human. Prince Charlie, no, that brought that up. But the point is that the DNA is almost more like a nexus point, and what decides to come through is what decides to come through. And I'm just double checking that we're still on the air, even though Bob has dropped off. Can people in the chat room just give me a thumbs up that we're on? I will just assume for the moment that we are, and I'll continue my line of thought. That, okay, we are on the air. That we have access to all forms of DNA that has been out there. That are, we talk about strands of DNA. Well, those strands of DNA can literally come together if source energy decides to take on that presence. Because that presence is simply awareness that you are all of and any of them. When we look at the star civilizations that are not human, what we're really looking at is we're looking at aspects of humans, because you have to remember one very significant thing, listeners and Bob, is that you are the center of known reality. Your awareness is at the center of known reality, and your body happens to occupy it. You are the galactic central sun where your body resides. and everything moves around in tandem to you. And that's all by choice and by unconscious momentum. And so there's many levels of you that obviously orchestrate what you're attracting, but at the center of it, you have access to everything to be. And I've had several things.
You know, just to illustrate that, most of us and most of our listening audience right now, we exist in a completely different dimension than, say, someone who's your average 3D person still asleep in the Matrix. Because we have a completely different history. Our history includes aliens coming down a long time ago. It includes ruling families. Their history doesn't have any of that. We're in completely different realities. Our future is completely different. Now is completely different. Past is completely different than theirs. They still interact with each other. You know, they're in of a completely different reality. We share certain aspects of our reality. You are the center of your universe. So continue. It's really, really good stuff.
Well, there is. I want to explain a little bit more what I'm getting about DNA. At the center of what DNA really is, DNA is like a portal to energies to come through in different patterns. Okay, so really, what DNA is sort of like a computer screen, where there's one pixel for every point of DNA, and the color of every pixel on the screen gives you a final individual picture. It all lines up and gives you an image that you can see, that you can experience in the very moment. But you can decide to go and focus on every little pixel, and you can decide to change it. You can say, this pixel, I want you to be blue. And the color spectrum is just another way of explaining the range of the energy. But the energy goes beyond the color spectrum. It goes into spectrums that we use all our other five senses to become aware of. Right? So, you know, just the computer screen is already just, and the color spectrum is already just a small dimension of it all. And
well, am I right in saying that in the physical, color doesn't really exist? It's just perceived?
Right. It's a perception of a wavelength. So wavelength does exist, right? Which is a holding pattern of energy. You know, frequency does exist. And when you get multiple objects and frequency together, you get a pattern. You know, if you take one rapid frequency and you overlap it with another one, well, now you've got like two frequencies together, and now you've got a rhythm. That rhythm can be interpreted as information. You know what I'm saying? And the brain does all the calculating for you, so you don't have to do a whole lot of work on that. But that brain is patterned over the higher self-awareness. Your brain is actually patterned over your broader awareness. And so your broader awareness can do all calculations instantaneously, more instantaneously than your brain. The difference is that your brain has been patterned over your higher being's ability to do this, so that your brain can create beliefs and more physical structure that maintains its pattern. Now that's a contrast to where we're going right now, because the ego is used to associating patterns and building patterns and making associations, and we're telling it to do less and less of that and to let go and take what we understand as belief, pull them apart like we're taking apart an old Lego set and saying we can build new things now with these pieces. That's what I see, and that's what I understand. Literally, like we're living in Lego land, except we've never taken the Legos apart. They've gotten dusty the way that they are, and now we can reestablish the way that we want this Lego city to be. So,
and
you know what?
basically...
It actually works because I saw the movie Lego Movie. Anybody who saw the movie Lego Movie will get it. I don't know how you're going to get to see a copy of it out there, but that's kind of the story. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but what I just said, actually, I just realized it's like the Lego Movie. It's one of my top 10 movies for deprogramming the Matrix.
Now I'm going to have to watch it.
Yes, I was exhilarated. I couldn't have imagined a better scenario to help the young audiences get it.
So, how do you see this unfolding? Now, he had a really hard time trying to even estimate time frames of when everything will happen, but he seemed to be quite clear that the veil is coming down. Almost, I mean, when you start speaking in cosmic terms, it's like immediate. So I don't know what that
if I may, I'll speak on that.
Please.
It happens when you're ready, and it can happen as you choose it to be. So when I look at my heart timeline, and when I look at my heart time from time to time, I had to understand what time was. And time is just like distance. It's just like physical distance between here and 10 feet from here. Okay? Now I can walk all about my room. I can stand 10 feet, 10 degrees from me. I can walk 5 feet, 6 degrees from me because there's a wall beyond 6 feet. And I can say, this is the measure of where I feel I can walk. I'm not going to stand in the middle of my table. I'm not going to stand halfway through a wall. So I have an understanding of limits, right? I'm not going to walk through it like a ghost. So when we look at time, we also create patterns of when things will fit. We'll say things don't fit in this environment, and things do fit under this environment. And so timing is almost like choosing the vibrational balance. We have all this astrology that we have, and we're like, well, this time it's going to be easier to do this, or this time it's going to be easier to do that. Well, you can do anything you want, and you don't have to be affected by the heavens and astrology. Just like I could actually stand in the middle of my table if I were to pattern my beliefs where I can phase through it. But what I can do is I can stand on my table and get pretty close to the pattern of what I'm looking as, I want my head to be 6 feet from the floor. I just have to kneel on my table and I can have the same sort of view. I won't have the exact experience I'm looking for because I'm deciding not to cut a hole through my table. But when we get to time, we're noting that there are vibrational proclivities for when certain things occur, and we get comfortable. We even try to organize these proclivities into dates, into numerology, into days of the week, into synchronistic times of the day. But in the end, we aren't beholden to playing by those rules. It's useful to start there because, cutting a hole in the middle of my table is not an ideal way to decide to experience standing right where the table is. I'll just move the table. I'll just change my belief over the table. Don't ever move the table. I'll just move the table for a little while. I can do that. And I can hold that perspective. So when we look at time is an option. Time is literally a reflection of your ability to choose when the experience is going to be. My heart timeline and my future self told me two things about my heart timeline. And that was, everything happens when you're ready, and everything that you aren't ready are things you don't even know about yet. And as you decide to discover it, you'll find that you're more ready, and then you'll have the experience that you've been asking for. That's how you do it. That's how you journey through your life consciously rather than unconsciously. And if you journey through your life consciously, with your physical awareness, your awake awareness, it will go very fast. Only when you do it unconsciously, you might say it doesn't the most efficient. So by letting go, efficient. By being conscious, you make it go fast. And you address it. You can actually manifest reality. You can change the whole world in front of you with your mind. But if you want it to all happen on its own, you can let, Mother Nature, you can invite it to all change around you. Where you stand is constantly changing. So you know that it's already happening. But it all seems to be happening consciously. You don't realize that you're doing it. You don't realize that you're tracking. You don't realize that you're bringing that about. But you can make it conscious. But to make it conscious, you're breaking up a bit, Bob. To make it conscious, you need to acquire the responsible nature to give yourself that possibility. Okay? Just like a child who's been taught not to hold a handgun because it's dangerous, the child needs to reprogram himself to believe that he can be responsible enough to hold a loaded handgun. Okay? The controllers have said it's too dangerous for you to just go around changing everything. You need to follow rules.
Julien, I'm going to have to...
I heard you're going to have to what? Yeah, so Bob's signal is obviously very lacking at the moment. And to continue my line of thought, very briefly, I was kind of done with it, was you're in the place always to actually remove the unconscious role of choice and take the responsibility of taking the controls, coming off of autopilot. Now, you don't have to do that because right now, this whole shift is saying autopilot is now most definitely in your favor. It's most definitely doing everything that is towards your proclivity. And more you realize that, the more and more you allow it to become in balance with your conscious mind. Everything is perfect. Everything is proceeding according to the most natural, balanced way that it can. Andrew, if you want to be more in control, if you want to have more choice, if you want to start manifesting out of thin air, if you want to start teleporting, having telekinesis, having powers that bend reality, just be responsible for them. Be responsible. Why are you not able to just, light your hands on fire and shoot fire like in the movie Avatar? It's because you don't actually believe you're responsible enough to take care of that. You feel you might burn your house down by accident when you sneeze. So that's where discipline and meditation come into play for some people. And some people are just going to skip that. Some people are just going to be so eager, they're going to jump too feet in. And in this world where everything is possible, people will start to do that. And they'll stop running the program. They'll stop running the subconscious story of how things should be. And you just be how you wish it to explore. Literally be your own genie. And take yourself off the hook of feeling like everything needs to stay the way it is. Now, we do that because we gain a lot of comfort. Why do we gain a lot of comfort? In our relationships, in our surroundings, even keeping our job. Because all those things are sort of like platforms to grow off of. It's sort of like the pot that the plant grows out of. I could hold a seed, but until I have an environment for it to grow from, that seed doesn't do a whole lot. It doesn't germinate. So we basically play with all of that. And if we get back to the concept of DNA is that very subtle, very physical source where the energy we're asking for will come through. And it doesn't even have to show up in our body. It will radiate in our field. It'll come through photonically, it seems, and will become a magnetic effect on our local environment. That's what your aura is. It's a magnet. As much as residual information, it's not residual information. There is no junk DNA. There is no energy that is floating off and not having purpose. It's all in purpose. It's just, I've been in the place where I've begun to know more and more that I'm responsible for everything, and it's becoming more and more true as I choose to be aware of how responsible I can be. I'm not going around lighting my hands on fire because I can. Okay? What I am doing is I'm taking a look at the case study of life. I'm sort of like reviewing the new classroom that I can decide to sign up for. I'm reviewing, the back of the movie. I'm looking at, what there is in the movie and deciding if I'm going to do that. If I'm going to play that movie. If I'm going to take that course.
One of the agents that was here, they were trying to assess. I think they were trying to assess our threat, and they were asking questions like, well, what can you do? Can you walk on water? And I said, well, I guess when I need to, I'll be walking on water.
It's funny they ask that question because they're like, I can't work with someone unless they actually do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't know how to categorize you until you give me something to work with, like a fact. You know what I mean? And that's. But
even what is a fact? A fact to you and a fact to me.
Right. I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying for each one of us, people react to who we are based on who we've been, right? I mean, that's a process of the past. People look at us for what we've done, and they say, well, Julian's like this, and so this is how I expect to work with Julien. Bob has been like this is how Bob talks, and this is what Bob has done, and this is, what I expect when I come to Julien. From yours and my perspective, we look out at people, and this is how they come to us. They come to us because they say, hey, you're Julien, right? And you talk to the Pleiadians, right? Or you're Julien and you're Canadian, and you have a show, and, and whatever facts they choose to intermingle between us, and make that experience whatever it is. So, I'm Canadian too, or something, or I really like Canadians, and we have a conversation on that. But I am many things, as well as potentially all things, and they are too. However, we choose an experience based on a construct of belief. We hug because we choose to have bodies in which to hug. But we can hug with our mind. We talk to each other in English because we choose to believe that that's the construct that we're doing that. We're having a conversation in English. that doesn't even have to be the case. We can do telepathy, which is available, but we have to get over how necessary the English language is, because telepathy is much more useful with imagery and feeling.
Yeah, it is. And one way that we practice, we had a couple weeks ago a day of silence where just you do no longer rely on your voice to communicate what you want, or we allowed toning or just speaking gibberish, where you're no longer dependent on the words to convey the message. And it helps you to get in tune with that other form of communication. You'll automatically start to shift towards telepathy, and it becomes easier. Just try it. You've seen videos on YouTube of little babies obviously having a conversation and understanding between each other and understanding each other and speaking gibberish. I watched two kids da 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 and back and forth because they were communicating at a complete. They weren't relying on the words. The words really didn't have necessarily any meaning. What was carried on that vibration, on those tones.
I started. My own child,
I
actually had that experience when she was younger and she wasn't speaking English. I'm like, I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you tell me. And I was like, wow,
Well, that's how I got introduced to telepathy. A friend of mine, he was using his guitar, and as he was guiding me into tuning in, all of a sudden I was hearing what he was saying through the guitar. I clear as a bell. I knew exactly what he was saying. What the music was saying. And we carried on a conversation that way for a while. Then he stopped playing. And then I realized that we were still carrying on the conversation, and I didn't need the guitar anymore. And
there's this element that I think people aren't aware is actually the musicality of our voices. There's a lot of natural musicality when we speak, and that musicality can be overly developed. It can be constantly developed. And when people sing, sometimes their accent is lost.
Yes, yes.
Your singers, whatever, you're like, oh, I didn't even know that person was Australian or British or whatever. Or Celine Dion even had a French-Canadian accent.
Right.
Because the musicality is the truth. The musicality is really the message being given. And that's why singing is actually much more exercised in the galactic group than we do here. They sing more than talk, generally. Their voices are much more musical as patterns than talking, as we have.
Right.
And they do that as an emphasis. It's sort of like they talk in bold when they're talking, when they're actually using their voices. Otherwise, the telepathy is functional.
this is, conversations that we have, it really marks a major shift in humanity. And that's another thing. These conversations are listened to intently. And what we're, these ideas, testing the limits of what you thought was true. Now, I'm not telling anybody, go jump off of any buildings or anything, test that limit. Mm-hmm. But it's good to start to play with reality, and do a day of silence, do speaking gibberish, and you'll be surprised how well you can get your point across, and you really start to, open up a completely different mechanism for communication. I think telepathy it's one of my favorite things to do. And when it's working, and it's working really well, it's because so much can be conveyed. So much can be conveyed. We communicate there's a one of the German, no, I think he's from Austria. His name is Reichert. I keep calling him Jonas because he reminds me of my friend Jonas. And I don't even know how to explain it. We shared each other. We just held each other and hugged and opened ourselves up completely, opened ourselves up to each other's most intimate, nested fields of energy, open our hearts up, and I know him in that moment better than my best friend. I know him like I know myself in an instant. And after that sharing, we're instant friends. Like I don't even need to know all of the stories. I know him. Like it's just, oh my goodness, I can't articulate it. I don't know his history. I don't know a lot of the events that he's been through in his life, but I know him. I can imagine all kinds of different scenarios and tell you what he would probably do with a high measure of accuracy, because I know him, and I came to know him in a matter of a 2-minute embrace, and that it's profound. It's really, it cuts dating time really, really quick.
Well, it's also seen in people who are actors, who study their subject really, really strongly, and they do things like they act, they don't break character until the movie's finished, like they literally can embody another pattern or embody a historical figure. I mean, that is actually going on. Everybody has this ability too, to actually speak. This also happens when people get hypnotized and they're asked to act like a chicken or, pretend they're Michael Jackson or something. They're actually doing it. They really are embodying that spirit essence, that energetic pattern, so to speak, that's been invited.
Oh, sometimes we'll be playing around. Christian just walked in my door, and quite often I'll switch complete personas. I'll be a Mexican. I'll be a French guy. Sometimes I'll be a German. I have the full, and sometimes I can't get out of it. Like it's just
really?
you get stuck. Yeah, and it happens. Sometimes it happens, and I don't even realize that they will ask me a question, and the old Jewish guy part of me answers that question completely in character. There are, you're going to find ultimately, and I think at the ultimate awakening, that all humanity is you are in the process of being everyone at the same time.
Well, everyone.
That may be hard to. Yeah, you're in the process of being everyone at the same time, and you can just like Julien said, tune into any of those embodiments and be that person for however long you choose to be. And
it's also a little bit
really it's fun.
I mean, it's kind of what channeling is. Only most people channel beings.
It's exactly what channeling is.
But if you know someone really well, like your brother, someone that you feel really well, I can embody my brothers from when I lived with them. But as adults, I don't know them as well, so I can speak from what my childhood brothers would do. And I can literally make decisions. It'll come to me exactly what they would say. I don't have to think it out. It comes in because I've chosen to be on that tangent, that angle.
Yeah. It's, and you know what? We do it all the time, and we're not conscious. We do it, and I don't even think that we realize what it is that we're doing most of the time. And when we start to become aware of what is really going on and what we're really actually accomplishing and some of the things that we're doing with our realities, then we can really transform this planet. And this is one of the things he said. If you get enough people at a certain level of consciousness, the planet can be transformed literally instantaneously.
Yeah, I believe that, and that's actually, well, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain that's how they terraform planets. They actually just get a bunch of people holding hands together, and they say, this is the new playground. And they just decide how it's going to be, and then nature takes on its own level of consciousness. They invite a form of Mother Nature to it, and they say, all right, the process has started. We'll come back when it's right where we asked it to be.
And isn't that exactly how we built the new Earth?
Something like that. I think all our dreams are in the new Earth.
Yeah. Because we've all been there. We've all been to it. I know. I don't always remember my dreams, but I remember bits and pieces. And I know we've all been there, and it's real. I mean,
and it's physical. It's not a dream. The dream is just how you access it. But it's physical.
Yeah.
Physical is right now. Maybe even more.
And this is for a lot of people who just tuning into a show like this, it may seem really fantastical, but excuse me. Yesterday, I did another telekinesis, psychokinesis class, and it's getting better and better. And it was videoed. A bunch of people are taking videos, and it's there. It's happening. It's working. We are. How often do we experience telepathy, Christian? Every day. You know, and it's a new. We're on a new frontier, and we get to play a much broader range of games. And there's no reason that we have to wait for something to happen. The something that happens is you. You are the something that happens.
That's what I was trying to explain about time. Time is actually up to you.
Oh yeah.
Really, and there's no need to fill your day.
I'm still going back to my trip to Morocco, which took 45 minutes, which was it was a 6-hour flight or 9-hour flight. Sorry, it was a 9-hour flight. It took 45 minutes. Because I experienced 45 minutes. Lisa experienced 9 hours. I don't know how it happened. We were sitting right next to each other. But for me, it was 45 minutes.
And you can make it last 20 hours.
That's true. I've done that in school.
Yeah,
and that's well, you know, we don't realize, like, you know, our perception of time, it changes according to our state of being. You know, like when you're having fun, you know, oh my God, look at the time! Wow, how is it this time already? You know, and it's you speeded time up, or time has speeded up for you. In a sense, your perception of time is speeded up. And all of reality is perception. You know, I mean, I'm looking forward to the day, like, when I can just decorate the room as my mood chooses. You know, I think I'm on blue walls today, and they're blue. Because I could change my perception to any spectrum I wish. You know, what does blue sound like, Julien?
What does it smell like?
What does it smell like? You know,
and we
you can
build those associations too. You know how they do it with like food colorings. You know, you get like a popsicle and it's orange because they added the flavoring from oranges. You know, orange tastes like orange. Surprise, surprise. Like lime. You know? Those have been built in, but they don't. Green can taste like French fries. You know?
Yeah. But like, you know, as you're mentioning these colors and I'm imagining what they smell like, I know what green smells like. And I do know what, I mean, like, you know what purple smells like? It smells like purple.
To me, purple smells like...
it smells... It's kind of like grape, kind of like
grape?
But... Huh?
Yeah, it's kind of like grape. It's sweet, and it's hard.
Right, and for me, purple has a smooth texture. Almost a polished texture, or like hard candy, like whereas green isn't as smooth.
Yeah, I feel blue as a sunny day, like a crisp air. A crisp, happy, sunny day.
Yeah, And to me, blue has a soft um, a soft texture, almost
Well, blue's very comforting for me. Like I'm almost the exact same feeling as laying on the grass, looking up at a blue sky with a couple clouds.
yeah.
That's what blue is for me. Why? Because I've done it. Why? Because I've experienced, the most amazing blues that way.
And you can combine experiences into just a single feeling. Like you just described, lying on the grass, looking up at the sky, on a summer day, and that has a specific feeling to it.
Yeah, it's very calm, very relaxed.
And that feeling is when you feel that feeling, right? And this is I think how teleportation happens. You change your vibration. Like everybody can imagine what a rainy day in London in the fall, it has a certain feeling to it. And if you embody that feeling strong enough, you will have to be on a rainy day in London, instantly, because you're creating. That's what you've tuned yourself into.
So,
and it's very much like a tuning. We tune reality. And what was that movie? It was called Dark City. They actually called it tuning.
So, I just accessed a teleportation physical technology to make teleporting easier for people. It's essentially like a telephone booth, but it's more like it's about the span of your arms outwards. I don't know what that is. It's like 5 feet or something, 5 feet in diameter. Anyways, it's a round booth. You get inside, and there's a projection on the top that projects the environment of another booth. The other booth has cameras, records the outer appearance, and basically you get to teleport and it adjusts your mind in such a way that you believe that you're actually in that other environment, and then the walls get pulled down and you actually are there. It's no longer a projection. And then they also include qualities of the air, so that the air itself also gets into your into your nose, and also the sounds. And then they affect the temperature. So this booth is also a climate-affecting environment.
Okay, now this booth that you're talking about, is this something that you've dreamed of, or is this something that you've seen?
Just now.
Or
this is something I've just gotten just now. And so people who are maybe
that is a brilliant idea.
And so many people who are not ready to teleport, you can put one of these things on like a meadow, like in The Sound of Music. Gather all that data. That data gets transported, gets basically linked to that person who's downloading that data in that room somewhere else, like in the middle of New York City. And then when they feel resonant, they push the button, pull it away, and that's exactly what it's like outside of them. We have the technology to actually make that happen right now. But the technology that actually teleports you is in your head, and it'll require just one person saying and proving it real. You just need one person to prove it, and then everyone else will be on board. That's what happens. It's the ice cracker. Breaking the ice. You there, Bob?
Just one person, Julien. Just one person. And it's gonna happen. It's inevitable to happen. And I know we're going to see it. It's happening within our lifetime. And I would like to think it's happening within the next couple months.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah. We could even call it the TARDIS.
Oh, you're a Doctor Who fan.
I'm not, but I know what it is.
Okay. Well, that would be like an excellent training of the device to actually tune reality.
Ah. Yeah. Like a bridge.
Yeah. Because, wow. That's a really good idea.
It was given to me. And I can probably figure out more and more the actual technology behind it because I'm very close to it right now. Like the actual methodology for how we would transition our technology to do that. Most likely it would involve projectors projected onto a screen from outside the room that you're in. So it'd be projected onto sort of like a surface that you could see. And the atmospheric properties could be all calibrated for basic levels of adjusting humidity, and adjusting temperature, adjusting certain qualities in the air. There are devices that I've actually worked in a photo archive area where everything is on negatives, and since the negatives are, they can age, and the quality of the images can go down, they need to be in this air, temperature, and humidity controlled environment. So there's this machine that made sure the humidity was correct, the temperature was correct, and it was kind of chilly, and all that, and if the air was clean. It was funny. I would be like scanning these negatives in that room, and I would sneeze, or I'd fart or something like that, and like 5 seconds later, the machine would turn on to filter the air. I'm like, damn. So I know these things are already, and that was years ago. I'm sure they've miniaturized these since. But they tried to invent the movie theaters that have scent, that have smell. It just hasn't taken off because it's a whole movie theater, and it's a really big deal to do that, and it's too expensive to design a system so that your television will do it. But I think it deserves being revisited to make this even easier for people. Apparently, according to the news, there's right at Disneyland that does that. California Adventure. Oh, it's the one where you're soaring over California. Have you happened to see that one or experience that one, Bob?
No.
So what they do is you get in this harness, a little bit sort of like a hanging, those roller coasters where you hang in it, you don't sit in a chair.
Yeah.
Anyway, hanging in it, and then it lifts you off the ground, so that you're sort of sitting in like this hand that's holding you from the ceiling, and it elevates everyone so that you don't see the feet of the people in front of you, that you're sort of like tiered like a movie theater, and then you're basically looking at a giant IMAX screen below you and in front of you, and it puts sense, and you're like soar over fields, and they actually blow air like with like wind, and they have the scent on that, and then they also like fly around all these environments called soaring, and they did a really good job, and it's kind of what I'm talking about, but at a more personal level. So I think if we got 2 of these built to teleport between 2 locations, we can work specifically on the exact environment and senses that would be needed for each environment. So it can be tailored, designed for that. But I'm sure it can expand into just, building these things to work anywhere. You know?
Right. You know, it kind of sounds like did you see the Christopher Reeves movie Somewhere in Time?
No.
Well, it was the same. I mean, basically, he dressed up the room, his clothes, everything, you know, to like the 19 or 1920s, wherever he went back in time. Convinced his mind that it was that time. He removed anything that would otherwise. Would hypnotize himself. And then when he would walk out of the room, he'd be 1930 where he came up with this movie. A really, really cool movie. It explains exactly what you're explaining right now, where he goes to a professor and he explains all of this. That location and all of that just in your mind.
But subjective. It's perception because you're living in a hologram. A hologram is just an image projected to the retina of your eye, and it can be received that way. But what we're really talking about here is sort of like self-hypnosis through tools. I know one of the reasons why I'm less affected by substances is so that I can be authentically in the place of what it is for someone who I can explain my reality and what I'm experiencing without having to say the substances were involved. I'm also highly resistant to hypnosis. I found out. I've actually known that my whole life. And so I know that if I can do this, especially being less hypnotized capable, then anybody will be able to go through it. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It is really choosing your state of awareness, hypnosis, reality, because you're meant to, at one level, have that ability. That's how I see it.
Right.
Well,
excuse me?
We're down to 25 minutes, and there was a subject I wanted to bring up, and that is states of mind and moods.
Say that again?
States of mind and moods, and what they really, and how foundational they are for us getting a grip on our lives right now and experiencing the reality we want to live in. Right? So, so within states of mind, you have sort of like a range of experiences that you can explore in a state of mind, right? And it's an energetic balance with a certain, frequency. So states of mind in the brain are just frequency. So that you actually have sort of like a state of observation based on your perspective. It's almost like putting on green sunglasses or red sunglasses. You're not going to be able to see things that are already red very well, right? Because you're blocking out the red or you're blocking out the green. And lots of other things won't have the same sort of context because you're looking at it with green lenses or red lenses, right? Your spectrum is actually smaller than should you take the glasses completely off. Now, what a mood or a state of mind is kind of like that. It's like a polarized lens that reduces your experience of certain energy forms. So, or what it can do is it can sort of like make them very. You can wear like sunglasses that doesn't leave that makes it sure that you only see 3 colors, like a 3-color sunglass, so that you only experience certain emotions on the emotional spectrum. And so a state of mind is almost sort of like a limited box of feelings available to you. Does that make sense?
Right.
And because they affect so much they're so integral to most of the ways that you experience your life based on your state of mind and your mood. They get anchored pretty well. As you know, it's sometimes hard to change your mood. Sometimes hard to change your state of being, right? Because you're anchored by all the different ways that you validate that mood is important, right? So mastering states of mind and mastering moods may sound like, oh, I'm becoming like a Vulcan, emotionless or something like that. But it's actually the opposite. That's sort of like almost like a scare tactic to say don't be in control of your moods or states of mind. Or just choose one. Just choose one state of mind and one mood. And sometimes it's been observed by me that some of our galactic races just don't have the full spectrum of human expression that we do. I say, well, that's too bad, But they're like, no, we're good. We understand. We just don't engage in some of those states of mind that you do in some of those moods. Right? But that's just it. If you have an awareness that you are more in control of your mood and your state of mind, and you do that through just different exercises and different ways that you convince yourself that you are more in control of your mood. It doesn't mean you have to be emotionless. A state of mind and a mood can have a range of feelings within it. Just because I'm grumpy doesn't mean I can't smile. Just because I'm happy doesn't mean I can't reflect sadness. But I just won't hang out there for very long. I'll still want to return to my happiness. But there are triggers. The triggers are the transition tools. And some triggers, most triggers, are unconscious. And they're trained through things like television and media. They train you to transition your mood by following a sequence of mental thoughts that lead you from here to there. Right? Like some people, when they see blood, their state of mind gets the freak out mode.
Right. Well, it's just like if somebody sees a spider, their first reaction is to kill it.
Yeah.
It's a learned behavior. They're reacting.
Yeah.
And it's
trained triggers, right? But we're not like cavemen anymore. We're not worried about saber-tooth jumping out behind us. We're in a little easier environment here that we don't need the fight or flight type of triggers any longer, is what I'm saying. So, we can begin to let go of them. Because on one level, the fight or flight perpetuates fight or flight. We can come across a poisonous spider, but it won't bite us unless it's more likely that we freak out and expect it to be so.
Yeah.
You
freak out, it freaks out.
Yeah, same thing with bees, right? Like, don't freak out with bees. They don't. Well, not all of them go out of their way to kill themselves by stinging you. They die when they sting you.
Right.
So it's not like, all bees are kamikazes. You're crying out loud. Assume that they're just interested in checking things out. Not like they're looking for the beast to slay. So that's what I mean by deprogramming triggers. Because I think a lot of triggers have been used to make us more vulnerable to an environment that wants to control where our energy is placed. And that's what deprogramming from the 3D matrix really is. It's really nothing to be afraid of. Everything is really in the palm of your hand. You just, we have these programs that allow us to experience states of mind. I mean, it can even be other things like, you get in an argument with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, And just the mention of the word breaking up says, oh, you're thinking about breaking up? You just said the word breaking up. Like, hold on. Just because the word came up doesn't mean that that's what I'm planning. In fact, I'm trying to say I don't want to break up. I'm identifying breaking up is on the precipice, but I'm not attracting it. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible so that, I can walk through this with you here. I'm not having been thinking about it for days or something. I'm just noticing, hey, I want to improve the situation. Breaking up is not on the table for me. You see, but the triggers are there, right? And I'm noting that
right.
when we take a deliberate action to say, I want to be more in control of my state. I'm not saying that you don't want to cry, that you don't like to be scared. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if we take that step in awareness, that we're allowed to be happy all the time if we choose that mood or that state of mind, that we're allowed, that everything will revolve based around our state of mind, that we will attract reality for our persistence of a state of mind. That's really where we get to be the sort of like the environment for what we're asking for. Be happy if you want happy to be surrounding you. And it's happening to me. I find out that I decide I want to be happy or whatever. I'm looking around, and some people are not. And I'm just like, shoot, man, that's too bad. I can maybe try to see it from your way, and I can change my state of mind, but I've kind of like given up on some of those states of mind where I get triggered by everything. I'm literally objective at all forms of pain and all forms of anxiety. Not all forms, but more and more. You know what I mean?
And I'm experiencing what you're saying very profoundly, because I had my friend Jack and Maria here a couple weeks ago, and I missed them. We got along so well together.
Yeah.
And when it came time for them to leave, right, I cried. And I allowed myself to feel sad, to express the emotion of what I was feeling, because I wanted them to know how much I was going to miss them. But I didn't have to.
No.
To allow myself to be sad. And I was conscious, aware, because it's not a reaction. It was an expression.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference, It was an expression. I was choosing to express my depth of feeling for them. And I could have chose to express it in a different way, but you're no longer a slave, and it's just a shift where you're no longer a slave to your external world.
Yeah.
And all the things that happen, you're no longer a slave to your experience, and because now you take responsibility for your own expressions, and your expressions are all around you. It is your expression that you're experiencing. It is your expression that you are walking through and talking with on a day-to-day basis in the form of people and experiences. And your expression comes from your state of being. And Heather talked a lot about, being and doing. But the doing always comes from the being, your state of being. And you get to choose your state of being at any time. And your state of being will doing is your expression of that state of being. And in that expression, your experience becomes an extension of all of that.
And you always have that. I guess we haven't been taught how much that is of value to our lives to be aware of. You know, I had one of my very last tensions as a child. I pitched a fit. I got really mad. And I was mad at my parents. My parents said, "Go to your room." And I went to my room and I screamed as loud as I could. I remember this. And I was crying and I was putting all my energy into screaming and pounding. And I sat there pitching a fit and I just cried and cried and cried. And then, it was like, I don't know how long, but I just got to a point where I was crying and I was whimpering. And I was just, there's no kick to my crying anymore. And I was like, I don't want to stop because, I'm fighting, I'm resisting my parents or whatever. And I didn't want to give up. And I started realizing, what the, it actually dawned on me. What am I doing? I don't have to cry. I can just stop. And I looked at myself, just stop. I had tears on my face. I wiped them away. I'm like, I just stopped. I realized that didn't feel good, and I just stopped. And when I stopped, I actually didn't have that fight against my parents. I actually saw a whole other world where what I had done can be perceived in a whole other light. And that was my last tantrum, and I think I was like 11 years old or something like that. And I didn't cry, stop anymore. My brothers accused me of becoming heartless, but I still cried when I was sad. I just didn't cry to manipulate my parents into trying to feel bad for what they had done to me anymore. And I didn't cry for anyone else. I only cried for myself. Or cried when I was touched. And, I recently went through an analysis of all major experiences of my life. It's just one of those things I like to do every once in a while and see what the validity of having a memory is for. And I saw that. And I realized that, yes, you can change your mood by the snap of the fingers, but usually you only do that when there's no value in a state of mind. And so what we do generally is we jump between states of mind when there's less value in it, when we're kind of done with it. Why we have more than one mood or state of mind? Because we experience the gamut of experiences within a state of mind, and we choose to live in more than one. It ties into a little bit how the Pleiadians don't include a lot of states of mind that a lot of 3D people do. Like they would never cry to try to manipulate someone. They don't even know that that's possible. You know what I mean?
There's too many things that we can do. We've been creating this reality for a long time. A reality of scarcity, a reality of lack and limitation. But, and I mentioned this before, just holding the belief that anything happens is going to benefit me and those around me, and embodying that belief, just that single thought and that belief incorporated into your being will completely change. You will no longer have to worry about anything. You no longer have it will always. You see those people who are just the luckiest people in the world.
Yeah, I've met them.
Oh, I won the lottery again. Can you believe it? Well, why did that happen? They're holding belief that that should happen. to them. Instead of the belief that I'm imperfect, people really are holding on to that belief that they're imperfect, or, well, I can't make a difference. What can I do? All of the beliefs that you hold to, their energetic patterns, their thought patterns you're holding on to are always expressed. It's part of your state of being. Your mental constructs, right, are a result of a state of being. So you can work in reverse and you can change those mental constructs, right, and change your state of being. Because once you understand that you have that effect over reality, once you prove it to yourself, and I implore you, do not listen to Julien, do not listen to myself, do not listen to Tom Kenyon or whoever it is that, is agreeing with what we're saying. It for yourself. Because only then will you have the experience and know. If you prove it for yourself, you change your some of those programs, you no longer have to worry. My state of being is completely changed. I don't have to worry about anything because I know that anything that happens is for my benefit and everyone else.
And it always is.
And it always is. And it just keeps getting better. That's another belief that I have. It keeps getting better.
It keeps getting better, and I believe it keeps getting better because that's what I want to know. I want to know that that's the case, and I find more and more evidence of it.
Right. This is a conversation. We're down to our last 5 minutes.
Already?
Already.
Well, I was hoping I could set a question to George that maybe you can share with him, and maybe we'll bring it up next week.
Okay.
So, George, maybe we can just play this back for him or something like that. So the question for George is, now that he is here, how does he feel about returning?
Okay, I can answer that question because I asked him that question.
Oh, well, then you're brilliant.
He has a choice. He has a choice. He hasn't made that choice yet, but he realizes that even he has choices and opportunities now that before he didn't. And he is weighing those choices. So I don't know. I don't know if he will or not. I don't know how much further along, but I did ask him that question.
Very good. Now, you're willing to be someone who will accept questions through Facebook for George now?
No, I don't. Well, I'll try and answer as many questions as I can, but I don't. Well, let me ask him about that. And
Okay.
I'll let him decide. Okay.
See if that's an interesting thing he may offer or not, because I'm sure a lot of people would love to experience more of George, even if it's...
That's another thing he said.
What's that?
They're all over the place. They're not just here.
Yes, I've actually gotten that, but I don't want to talk about that yet. I'll talk about that when I'm more ready.
Okay.
because I'm going through my own what does that mean for me sort of thing.
Oh, well, I'll just say that for a lot of, especially to those who are listening to a show like this, you'll never know who you're entertaining. You just may never know who's sitting and having tea with you. Unless you recognize them, which seem to be like a big thing, that they're not revealing themselves unless they're recognized. You never know.
And they generally don't present themselves either. Not unless they want to control. So that's kind of the way it went when I first contacted them. I had to ask for them, and then they're like, yeah, we're here. Like, oh, shoot, you better off.
And I'll tell you, you would think that I'd be, oh my God, I can't. It was they're human. You cannot call them anything else but human. I mean, they're just like us. Or we're just like them. And there's differences in perception and difference in custom and the way that they express themselves.
It's funny,
but
I actually got the movie K-Pax the other day, saying I feel like watching this again, and so I got it. And it's just waiting for me to watch it again. I forget that the movie K-Pax with Kevin Spacey, where basically he goes to an institution because he keeps saying that he's not from this planet. Anyway, we're down to 60 seconds. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I think we had an awesome conversation. The line held pretty well.
And stay tuned for updates on the One People Show and the Collective Imagination Monday and Tuesday. Enjoy in the Remembering Wednesday and Thursday. I'm missing some. I can't remember. And we'll be back next week.
I'm with Crystal on the air tomorrow on Revolution Ships on Expanding You Network on Blog Talk Radio. And I guess for now, I'll see you next week or hear you on the air during the week.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.